To find your body, they gon' need Logan Paul. I'm in the force with the Kimber, it's my final.
What the fuck was that bar? To find your body, they gonna need Logan Paul. Fuck me. Anyway, the topic we're gonna be talking about is not Logan Paul or any bodies. We're not shooting anyone, we're not gangster over here. Yeah, we're into locking in and making a fuck ton of internet money, so this is how you do it. Or more importantly, this is how you not do it. Because I used to be this guy and I constantly used to tell myself that I was too smart to, put in the effort. I was constantly the kid with potential, and that's the worst place to be because you haven't actually put down anything tangible just yet. Every positive label that you have, you didn't deserve, you didn't earn in any shape or form. And this is very scary because you're going to get the validation, you're going to feel nice about yourself, regardless of what you do, which will lead you to do in your day shit like worry, overthink, learn, and call it beneficial and productive, when people half your IQ are going to be making hella fucking money. They're going to be getting 6-figure paychecks from John Pork over here. So why is it better to be retarded, and how do you dumb yourself down? My story began pretty much when I got into university. That's when I realized that this is definitely not the life that I want to be living, so I quit and I started an online business 3 months after I initially wanted to. The fear of rejection in my mind was so significant and so huge, I didn't even realize it. I tried to get a friend of mine to start this thing with me, and I begged him for like 2 months straight, and then for another month I procrastinated, and only when this guy, my other friend, was like, okay, fuck it, yeah, let's do it together. Then I started my online business. I was so afraid of outreach. I was so afraid of some random stranger saying, no, I don't want to work with you, that I didn't start whatsoever. And the problem was, whenever I told people about this journey and just, my decisions, I was like, yeah, I'm going to be rich, and they were like, oh my God, you have so much potential. You're so smart. Oh, you're thinking outside the box. And I got the validation which I wanted without doing anything. It's like the worst feedback loop ever. When people or myself came at me with, why are you not putting in action? Why are you not actually getting close to your goals? I always defended myself. I always protected my ego by saying, oh no, but I'm really smart. And, I need to make the perfect plan first. I can think my way out of it like I did in a lot of situations before. Not to say that I'm the smartest person ever. As a matter of fact, I'm a lot dumber than a lot of people out there. But I always found a way out. The problem when you have some sort of reasoning and when you're in this kind of mindset is that you always find a way out. You always find a somewhat reasonable way to cope. So I got into business with this guy, and it actually ended up being quite a success. I'd love to tell you that my fear of rejection was so huge that I couldn't get it to work and that I had to beat it. That wasn't the case. I could be the guy behind the scenes, and that's what I did for 2 years. That's how I made most of my money. In my marketing agency, I was the guy behind the scenes, and I didn't have to get out there and get rejected. The problem arose when I quit this business, when we went our own separate ways, and I realized that this thing was still the elephant in the room. I still feared going up to people and getting rejected, whether it's putting myself out here in video like this or DMing a stranger. And I'm ashamed to say that I would be years ahead if I dropped this mindset earlier. The action loop looks something like this. First, you put in the action, then you assess your approach, and after that, you adjust. What this basically means is if you imagine like an archer or a darts player, let's just go with the archery example. You stand in front of the board, you shoot your arrow, and then it lands somewhere, right? You're looking at this board, this is the bullseye, and let's say what you shoot is, an arrow that lands about here. The problem with this is that you didn't hit the bullseye, but you can now assess your approach and you can adjust it accordingly. What you'll see is, okay, I shot to the top right. Maybe that means that I should, aim a bit lower and to the left slightly. You're going to make these assumptions. The thing is, a lot of these assumptions are subconscious. This whole part here, the adjust and assess part, it's pretty much subconscious. You don't have to, okay, I'm going to twitch this muscle fiber and it's going to be slightly below. You don't fucking do that. You shoot your arrow and then you're like, okay, it was a bit high. And then you shoot your arrow again. Your mind kind of makes up the difference. The thing is, you're going to get better if you do it over and over and over again. The problem here comes in once you're in the mindset that I am, right? I was at least. You latch on to this part of the equation. You're like, oh yeah, this is the perfect excuse for me to not put in the action when that's the single most important thing. Again, most of this stuff is made subconsciously. You don't actually have to put in that much effort to realize what you did and do it a bit better. People like to say, and this, by the way, is also like a smart person cope. This isn't entirely true either. People like to say that, it's 50-50, you have to balance learning and action. And although there's some sort of truth to that, you do have to balance them, the balance isn't 50-50. The balance is more like 90-10. And the really smart people, the actually smart people, the scientists, I think it's a University of London paper that I read, say the same thing. They say the only thing, or at least the biggest determinant of how fast you learn is reps over time. This means if you're shooting at an archery board for 5 hours, the person who shoots 100 times but doesn't really focus in on that much, like learning, reading archery books and, assessing every autistic detail of the shot, is going to learn much more than the person who does but only shoots about 10 times. If you can just spam reps and, just slightly realize, okay, what you did wrong, like real quick, you're going to learn so much faster. What I was doing in this instance was I was refining my offer when it wasn't even published in the first place. Not only did I dwell too much in this area, I didn't even put in the action in the first place. I didn't do one rep, not a one. What was I even basing my approach off of if I don't get any feedback from the market, right? When you put something out, the market determines if it's of value. You get responses to your emails. People buy your offer. That's the response. And if you don't have the response, what the fuck are you assessing and adjusting? I was doing this. I was assessing myself and I was getting the idea back to myself and I was doing it again. And it didn't make any sense because, I'm not the one that's going to be paying me, am I? And again, I'm ashamed to say this, but only recently did I realize this. The only real test of intelligence is if you're able to get what you want out of life. Nothing else. I used to study advanced maths and people usually said, oh, that guy's like really, really smart. And just because he had like a high IQ, he could solve these math puzzles really easily. We usually labeled them as intelligent, but that's nowhere near the definition that I like to use nowadays. These people often did drugs and smoked every single break they could. And, they did all of these bad habits. And, it wasn't even that good for them. They were clearly not where they wanted to be in life. So they weren't actually that intelligent in my view. They might have had like a high IQ or something, but they definitely couldn't get what they wanted out of life. That's the real key to intelligence. That's why this guy will never get what he wants. You can't think your way out of a problem. And when I refer to this guy, it's actually not the intelligent guy. We're the people like us who, who we claim we're so fucking smart. We're the midwits here. We're focusing on, you need to have you need to have X, Y, and Z dialed in and and all of this, when the dumb person and the smart person are doing the same thing. They're just fucking doing it. Now, of course, there's a small difference here. When the smart person is not doing it, the 10% of time, remember the 90-10, this is where they're putting their leverage in. This is why they will be better than the dumb person, because they can actually assess and adjust better. But I need you to understand, if we were to rank these people, this guy gets a 10% growth, this guy gets a 90% growth, and this guy gets a 95% growth. Like, being dumber is infinitely better than being, the smart guy that I used to be. You're actually in the arena at this point. You're actually trying. And again, you will get most of the assessment and adjustment gains by just being there subconsciously. You don't learn how to swim by reading a book on how to swim. You learn how to swim by swimming, or at least trying to, right? Your mind will make sense of all of the patterns that you're fucking up subconsciously by default. The biggest thing is putting in the action in the first place. The problem is that this person has learning as an excuse, and that's just not smart at all. Furthermore, this person doesn't only learn, they use things like, I'm anxious, I'm an overthinker. That's a big one, right? I want you to think about this really quick. What does this word overthinking actually mean? Do you actually really deeply think about concepts? Do you use Socratic reasoning, asking why until you find the root cause of your problem? Most of the chance you're only on the surface level. This is what overthinking usually looks like. You're at 80% thinking your whole entire day. And those thoughts aren't even directed in a certain direction. They're just all over the place. What does that person think of me? Oh, what should I eat? Oh no, I should have said this in this conversation. These sporadic, kind of useless thoughts about external things that you can't even measure. How many goals has Ronaldo scored? You check on Twitter and all of this, and so much information all the time. It's no wonder you don't get to any real conclusions about your life which will actually help you. My counteroffer to overthinking is deep thinking, is when you don't think for most of the day, and for like 30 minutes or maybe 60 minutes a day, you think like 100%. What this basically means is you already know what you need to do. You're watching this video, probably, I'd like to take a chance, because you're kind of coping. You could be doing something more important right now. If we're being 100% honest with ourselves, there is a task which you could be doing. So usually you just want to go through your day and just do those things without really thinking about it, without coping, without being like, I have to learn first, beating fear once and for all, being honest with yourself. And if you don't know these kind of patterns, because back in the day I didn't know myself, just meditate, bro. Just really meditate. Once I realized that I was, seeking validation in these conversations for being the kid with potential or smart and this kind of stuff, I realized that, oh shit, I haven't actually put anything on the table. I haven't actually done anything. This is really cringe, me looking for validation for things that I was given. And if this continues, I'm not going to be anywhere I want to be in life. Anyway, once you realize this, deep thinking will come in clutch, because you'll know what to do most of the time. You'll just be doing the thing. And when you're not, when you're actually in this 10% region, right, the one when you're actually learning and assessing, you're going to be deep thinking. You're actually going to be fully in thought. You know, a lot of people who journal say you can have like journaling prompts. That basically means you have like this question which you ask yourself until you get to the bottom of it. And the way I like to do this is I literally just lie on the couch. I don't have anything to do. I don't have my phone in the same room. No external stimuli is getting into my brain. I'm not thinking about what I'm going to eat for dinner. Dinner's already planned. I'm not thinking about where I have to go afterwards. I'm not thinking about how many Ballon d'Ors Messi stole. Yes, it's a lot, but I don't care. I'm thinking about my own stuff. Things in here that's actually going to lead me to a transformation. So yes, there is a room for deep thinking and actually being in thought, but it's much less than you think. Stick to the 90-10 and only in the 10, which is like, I don't know, just an hour, maybe a day, do you actually think? But then you actually think. And whenever you're in doubt on what to do, just refer to this graph, please. It's the same thing. This dumb person and the smart person almost does identically the same thing, and there's always these people in the middle who are just fucking stupid.